Smoke burned her lungs as she pushed through the flames, coughing and squinting against the blinding heat. "Hold on, baby," she yelled, her voice cracking. Her trembling hands reached through the thick smoke until she felt something soft, a tiny arm. Pulling the little girl close to her chest, she stumbled toward the window. The building groaned like it was about to collapse. Someone screamed from below, "Jump! Please jump!" Clutching the child, the homeless woman closed her eyes and leaped through the smoke. They hit the firefighter's net with a heavy thud. She rolled onto the ground, gasping, the child crying but alive. People rushed toward them, neighbors, firemen, strangers with phones out. But before anyone could thank her, she slipped away into the crowd, limping, her hair matted with ash, her clothes burned at the edges. Her name was Ruth, 42, once a nurse, now homeless. Life hadn't been kind. After her husband died in a car crash, the bills stacked up, the rent vanished, and eventually so did the roof over her head. But even after losing everything, she never lost her instinct to help. As she ducked into an alley, shivering from the cold air hitting her burned skin, she whispered, "You did the right thing, Ruth. That's all that matters." If stories like this move you, if you believe in the power of kindness and redemption, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps us share more stories that remind the world there's still good in it. Just a few blocks away, Daniel Crawford, a well-known CEO of Crawford Industries, burst from his black SUV, panic all over his face. His suit jacket flew behind him as he ran toward the burning apartment building. "Where's my daughter?" he yelled, voice shaking. A firefighter stepped forward, pointing toward the ambulance. "She's safe, sir. A woman, some homeless woman, she went in before we could reach her." "Save the kid's life!" Daniel froze, eyes wide. "Where is she?" The firefighter shrugged. "She vanished before we could thank her." He turned toward his car, scanning the street, desperate. "Find her," he muttered to himself. "I don't care how, find her." Hours later, the fire had died down. The block smelled like smoke and melted plastic. Ruth sat behind a grocery store dumpster, wrapping her singed hands in an old towel. Her small shopping cart, everything she owned, stood nearby. She looked at her trembling fingers and thought of the child's face. Those tiny eyes, so full of fear. For a brief moment, she felt like her old self again, Nurse Ruth, who once saved lives every day. As she pulled her blanket tighter, a memory hit her. The last night she had a home. She'd held her husband's hand as he said, "Ruth, no matter what happens, don't stop being who you are." She smiled weakly. "I didn't, honey. I didn't." Morning came cold and gray. Ruth walked to the community shelter for breakfast. But as she reached the door, she noticed a fancy black SUV parked across the street. Two men in suits were talking to the shelter manager. Her first instinct was fear. She thought maybe the police were there about the fire. She turned to leave, but someone called out, "Wait!" She froze. A tall man stepped forward, looking exhausted but determined. Daniel Crawford. His shirt was still stained with soot, his eyes red from crying. "Were you there last night?" he asked, his voice low, trembling slightly. She hesitated, glancing around. "I don't know what you're talking about." He stepped closer, pulling out his phone. On the screen was a blurry photo taken from a bystander's video. Ruth, holding his daughter as firefighters surrounded her. "You saved my little girl," Ruth's lips trembled. I just did what anyone would have done." "No," Daniel said firmly. "No one else did. You ran into a burning building." He swallowed hard. "You could have died." Ruth looked down. "I already lost everything, sir. Dying didn't scare me much." His eyes softened. "What's your name?" "Ruth." "Well, Ruth," he said quietly, "you saved the only thing that matters to me." He asked her to come with him, to his car, to somewhere safe, but she refused. "I'm fine out here." "Don't trouble yourself." Daniel shook his head. "I can't walk away from this. You saved my daughter's life. Let me help you." He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a card. "Come by this address tomorrow morning, please." Ruth hesitated, but something in his tone, honest, warm, made her take it. She nodded, then disappeared back into the alley. The next morning, Ruth stood outside a tall glass building with trembling hands. The gold letters read Crawford Industries. She almost turned away twice, but a security guard opened the door. "Mr. Crawford's expecting you." Inside, Daniel greeted her with a smile. This time, no suit jacket, just a man grateful beyond words. "Ruth," he said, motioning toward a seat. "This is the least I can do." On the desk was a folder, an offer letter. A job at his company's health foundation. She stared at it in disbelief. I don't know what to say." "You've already said it," Daniel replied gently. "You said it the moment you risked your life for my little girl." Tears filled her eyes. "I used to be a nurse. I lost my license when I couldn't pay the renewal. No one wanted to hire a homeless woman after that." Daniel leaned forward. "Then let me fix that. You deserve another chance." Weeks later, Ruth sat at her new desk in the Foundation's Community Outreach Division. Her hands, once covered in burns and ash, now typed reports, arranged food drives and wrote proposals to help others like her. Every morning, she'd pass the same little girl in the hallway, Daniel's daughter, Ella, who always ran up to hug her. "Hi, Miss Ruth." Those small hugs were the healing she didn't know she needed. One afternoon, Daniel stopped by her office. "We're hosting a community dinner this weekend." "I'd like you to speak," he said. Ruth froze. "Me? What would I even say?" "Just tell them the truth," he smiled. "That no matter how far someone falls, compassion can lift them again." That weekend, Ruth stood at the podium in a beautiful hall filled with hundreds of people. Cameras flashed, reporters whispered, but she wasn't nervous. She looked down at Daniel and little Ella, smiling up at her. She took a deep breath. "I once thought I had nothing left, but I was wrong, because kindness is never lost. Sometimes it just waits for someone to believe in it again." The crowd rose in applause. Daniel wiped away a tear. That night, as Ruth left the stage, Ella ran up and hugged her leg. "You're my hero," she whispered. Ruth knelt down and smiled softly. "No, sweetie, you're mine." And as the lights dimmed, Ruth knew. Her life had burned once, but from its ashes, something beautiful had finally risen.